Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining this session today, uh, and welcome to Edifyself once again. Today, we are going to discuss about reports and dashboards in Salesforce. So this is in continuation to what we discussed in our previous class about customizations in Salesforce, and we discussed about different customizations options which are available, namely customizing fields, adding fields to Salesforce, creating different type of page layouts, adding record types, processes, validations, etc. So today we would go ahead and discuss about reports and dashboard in Salesforce. And before we start our class today, this class would be recorded and would be available for you later after this class as well. I would request you all to put yourself on mute. And if you have any question, you can use raise hand feature on the WebEx. So I would know that you have a question. And at that time, I will let you know to unmute yourself and I can answer these questions. The only reason we ask you to mute yourself is just to make sure that we are not getting any background noise as we speak. And post the class, you can post all of your questions on question and answers on WebEx, or you can raise your hand and ask your questions there as well. But then I would encourage you just make a note of all the questions and send it on the chat, and I would answer all those questions in the class itself. And yes, if you have a question, raise hand as well. Now, as we start today about reports and dashboards in Salesforce, as you know, reporting is a very important feature in Salesforce, not only in Salesforce, possibly in any CRM software, right? For a management, this is one of the most critical aspects, because once Salesforce is implemented or the CRM is implemented, they would definitely want to know that how successful this implementation is. So, possibly starting with adoption, that, since Salesforce has been implemented, how many accounts are getting created, how many opportunities are getting created. So those would tell me that, where do we stand in terms of my salespeople adopting to Salesforce, and possibly running a report of login. How many logins have been done in last week, or let's say last month or so on, based on department or any other criteria. So that's your adoption reports. Post that, interesting thing for your management people would to know that where do they stand in terms of the revenue, right? I mean, what they did in the last quarter compared to where they stand as of now, and possibly based on the calculations, they can also see that where do they stand, as in what they can project for the coming quarters and so on. Also, it's important for the management to know that, those exception reports for my sales, that how many accounts I have in my organization wherein there are no opportunities. So yeah, if I have an account and there is no opportunity, so possibly my salespeople are not doing the job correctly. So it's important for management to have those kind of reports. And we would discuss all those features Salesforce reporting offers you, and then dashboards as well. So dashboard is simply the graphical representation of the reports, and we would see that how those dashboards are built in Salesforce. Now, most of the things in Salesforce, as you know, is we offer you through a drag and drop functionality. So this would be a drag and drop feature as well, which we would be using in order to go ahead and, create those interesting reports in Salesforce and those dashboards as well. So let's quickly go ahead and see what we're going to discuss today. What are the objectives of this particular class? So we would start, discussing about reporting tab overall, that what are the things you should know when you are at the reporting tab, what means what, so the terms which we use in our reporting tool as such. Then we would start discussing the standard reports. What are the standard reports in Salesforce? How many standard reports we have, and what are those types of standard reports? And as we discussed in previous classes, right, that anything which is standard in Salesforce has certain limitations. There are things which you can do, and there are things which you can't do with standard features in Salesforce. So yes, Salesforce standard reports have those limitations as well. So we'll discuss about those limitations as we go. And yes, why not to go ahead and create our own reports? One, I can use the standard reports which are already there in Salesforce, but what if I want something built based on my organization needs? So yes, you can create your custom reports in Salesforce, design them, have only the parameters which you or attributes which you need on your report. So we'll see how you go ahead and define your or how you create your custom reports. Uh, and while you create those custom reports, we use something called Report Builder, which is our drag and drop tool to create reports. We'll see that as well. Then we would also look into how can we customize the standard and personal reports using the Report Builder feature overall. And at the last in this session, we'll see what is a dashboard, how can you create a dashboard, and how can you access a dashboard which is already created in Salesforce. So this is the agenda of this particular class. It would have a lot of demos as well, wherein I'll try and show you how things actually work on Salesforce. So yes, when you have a question, let me know, and then we'll give you exercises to practice everything which we discussed. Now, coming back to reporting in Salesforce, we discussed some scenarios that, why reports or reporting as a feature is important in Salesforce. So Salesforce CRM gives you a comprehensive and real-time view of your business, right, in terms of the data available. Your managers, executives, and even individual sales reps are never more than a few clicks away in order to see the data or get the insights. They need to make sure that they have all those actionable data. Based on that, they can make informed decisions, I would say, which would add to their sales process overall. Now, in our reporting feature, we have two drag and drop tools. When you try and create those reports in Salesforce, we use something called a report builder. And based on those custom reports which you create in Salesforce, we create dashboards. And then we have a tool called Dashboard Builder as well on Salesforce. Now, keep in mind that during this whole presentation, we are not talking about the report and dashboard functionalities on the Lightning environment. This would be totally based on the Classic environment for now. And once we understand all these features which are in offer on the Classic environment, possibly in our next class, we'll talk about how these reports and dashboards are created on the Lightning environment as well, right? So we'll have a separate class for that. Now, moving ahead. So the whole idea about reporting, right? Remember in our classes, we discuss about security, and in security, we discuss about a lot of different aspects of, how record access is controlled in Salesforce through, your organization-wide defaults. Then you have role hierarchy, you have sharing rules to overcome them. Then you have manual sharing, then you have accounts and opportunity teams. All these contribute to who has what kind of access on different records in Salesforce. So, people always have this question that, when I run a report and I say, I want to see all the opportunities which are created in Salesforce in last 1 quarter, can I go ahead and see all of those opportunities? So the answer is pretty simple. In Salesforce, the way it works is, in Salesforce, if you go to the Opportunities tab, right? So for an example, if I go on Salesforce, go on Opportunities tab, and when I select all opportunities and I say go, so for an example, let's see how many opportunities I see as of now. So I see about 32 opportunities as of now. So the whole idea is when you go and run a report in Salesforce and you say all opportunities, you're still going to see only those 32 opportunities. So your record access is simply controlled by what kind of, your report access or the data which you can see on the report is simply dependent on the fact that what you have access to on Salesforce. So for an example, on Salesforce, if I don't have access to this amount attribute or this amount field on opportunities, when I run a report, I would see everything, but I would not see this amount column. So the whole idea is your record access eventually would control that what you can see in terms of running a report as well. If there's a field which you don't have access because of field level security, when you run the report, you don't see the field. That's it. Or possibly you created a report wherein, let's say you are the admin and you have access to every column or all the records in Salesforce, and then you share it with a sales rep. So the moment sales rep would try and access this report on Salesforce, he's only going to see what he's allowed to see in Salesforce. So though the report is generated by you, the moment he would look onto the report on his Salesforce account or his Salesforce ID, the report would automatically transform to show him only what he's allowed to see. So that's the concept with your secure, data access on Salesforce. So when you run a report, you can only see the records which you own. So that's your basics. Then the records which you have read or read-write access to, or the records which have been manually shared with you or possibly because of a sharing rule, or the records which are owned by you, uh, or which are owned by the users who are below you in the role hierarchy. So goes without saying it's the same concept which we have on the record access. So your record access is controlled by OWD. Then, you move ahead, and the second level of your record access is controlled through role hierarchy, which is the vertical access of the data. Then you have, lateral access, which is controlled and done through sharing rules, and then you have manual sharing. So anything which you have access to on Salesforce, you can go ahead and see a report or run a report based on that particular field. Now, as we move ahead, you can run a report multiple ways in Salesforce. You can go ahead and run a report from the Reports tab, which is this tab, right? I can go here and I can run a standard report or a custom report or an existing report. We'll talk about it later. Or you can even go ahead and run a report from a tab itself. So like I'm on the Opportunities tab. See, I have an opportunity pipeline, stuck opportunities, or closed opportunity reports here as well. So these are some standard reports which are available here. I can run it. Similarly, you would have these kind of reports on the accounts as well. So remember, reports you can run from two places. One, you can go to Reports tab and run a report from there. And second, you can go to the object itself, which is the tab. And on the tab, you can run a report there as well. These are two ways through which you can go ahead and run a report. Now, let's go ahead. Okay, I have a question. Yep, John. Yep. So that is right. Yes, you can run a report from the tab itself. Yes, and these all are standard reports which are available. Right. Yeah. Okay. Yes, and you're right. If a report is shared with you on an email, the moment you click on that link on your email, you'd be redirected to Salesforce, and you would be there on the Reports tab. Right. Good question. Okay, let's go ahead and talk about the type of reports in Salesforce now. So in Salesforce, we have 4 different type of reports which are available or which you can create or run on. Now, these 4 reports are starting with the first one, which is the tabular report. Now, a tabular report in Salesforce is pretty much, if you compare it with Excel, just consider it like a normal workbook. So it's just the data with rows and columns, but then it's not the data which is segmented or categorized based on a particular column. So possibly, take an example of a mailing list. So I'm looking at all the accounts with their phone number, their email address, and their billing details, right? Like street address, their city, state, and country, or the zip code details. So those are all the columns. But then this data does not signify or gives me detail basis on a particular column or basis on a particular attribute. So it's a generalized data, like a normal Excel worksheet. So that's your tabular report, the easiest one to actually build in Salesforce, tabular reports. But then tabular reports have a certain limitations. You cannot use formulas on your tabular reports. You cannot put charts on these reports because, see, it's a one-dimensional report. So it's not possible to go ahead and add anything in terms of charts on those reports. The second type of reports which are available in Salesforce is the summary report. Now, the summary reports are possibly one of the most used reports in Salesforce. Summary reports allows you to go ahead and add a grouping on your report. So in simple words, I'm not saying that these are all the accounts with the mailing address. So let's say I'm saying accounts which are grouped by their billing city. Right, so accounts from New York, then accounts from Pennsylvania, or let's say state, for an example. So all the accounts so those would be the row level groupings. So I would say, okay, these are New York as a grouping, and under New York, these are the accounts. Then I have Pennsylvania and all the accounts under Pennsylvania. Then I have New Jersey and all the accounts under New Jersey. So that's your summary report, wherein the grouping is done at the row level. And there can be 3 levels of grouping that you can do on the row level for summary report. Plus, the second advantage of a summary report is it allows you to do a row level of a summarization as well. So for an example, there's an annual revenue for every account. As you know that on an account field, page, we have a field called annual revenue. So I want to see annual revenue, summarized, or let's say average of that annual revenue for a particular state. So when I'm running this same account report based on the state, I can say, I also want to see the summary of this annual revenue. We'll see that once we're going to run that report as well. The third type of reports is in Salesforce is a matrix report. Matrix report is similar to what you have on Excel as a pivot table. So over here, the grouping is done at the row level as well as at the column level. So consider it similar to a summary report. The only difference is summary report is a row level summary, wherein a matrix report is row as well as a column level summary. And then we have a joint report, wherein, so joint report, consider it a report wherein, so it's a combination of multiple reports. So let's say I'm trying to build a scorecard for my sales reps. On this scorecard, I want to see that my sales rep, how many, or let's say, what was the sales revenue he has generated in the last quarter in terms of won opportunities. Then what did he actually lose in the last quarter in terms of the lost opportunities, and what he has opened for the current quarter, right? So I'm creating a scorecard. Now there are 3 different reports. One report shows me all the won opportunities. Second one shows me all the lost ones. And the third report shows me all the open opportunities. Now, across all these 3 reports, the common field for me is, let's say, in this case would be the sales rep, because I want to see it based on the sales rep. So I can create a joint report, and these would be my 3 blocks: won, lost, and open. And across these 3 blocks, we have sales rep as a common field. So when you create a joint report, that's the most important criteria, that what is going to be your common field. Okay, moving ahead. So see, this is your tabular report as we discussed. A simple example of a tabular report here, which simply shows you that, okay, I have all the accounts, and I just have the columns added. There is no grouping, nothing, just the columns added. And an example of a summary report. Notice in this report is based on the opportunity owner. So at the row level, you have opportunity owner. So Jing Chang, for an example, has these 5 opportunities. And Anjana Shah, she has these 3 opportunities. And then, so this is the grouping. Opportunity owner is the grouping for all the opportunities. And that at every opportunity, grouping level, so when you see this opportunity owner, Anjana Shah, who has 3 opportunities, notice the sum of revenue. So this is the sum of opportunities this opportunity owner has. So which is a addition of these 3 opportunities, 1, 2, and 3. When you club these 3 amounts together, you're going to see this amount. So that's your summarization. So summary report, remember, it's a tabular report which has a grouping as well as a summarization, right? So we call that a summary report. And looking at a matrix report, notice this report is a matrix report. At the row level, there is a grouping based on the opportunity owner. That, okay, this opportunity owner has these many, David has these many, Matt Wilson has these many, Phil Smith has these many, just imaginary users. And they have these opportunities. And then at the column level, there are groupings as well. Remember, in the summary report, the grouping was only at the row level, wherein on a matrix report, the grouping is on the row level as well as on the column level, right? So that's your matrix report. So it looks like similar to something like a pivot table on Excel. Yeah. Moving ahead. Now, a joint report, as I said, it's a combination of multiple blocks added together. The only important parameter to remember here is across these multiple blocks which you're going to club together, they should have a common field across these blocks. Also remember that when you're creating joint reports, there are certain limitations which we will discuss later. And while creating a joint report, you can have these blocks based on the similar report type, or you do have an option to create this report based on a different report types as well. And we'll discuss report types later in our training, that what are report types and how are they created. Okay, moving ahead. Now, in Salesforce, right, in our previous classes, we keep discussing about what is a standard thing or what is a custom thing in Salesforce. Like, you have almost everything as standard or custom. You have standard profiles, you have custom profiles. You have standard fields, you have custom fields, right? Similarly, in terms of reports as well, you have standard reports and custom report. Like in terms of profiles, if you remember in our previous classes when we discussed that in profiles, a standard profile gives you a limited control. There's not everything that you can change on a standard profile. But when you have a custom profile, you have full control. So you can do almost everything with a custom profile. Similarly would be the case of a standard report or a custom report. So when you have a standard report, keep in mind that these are the reports which are already built in the system, which means that you cannot go ahead and delete these reports. They are standard in nature. You cannot delete them. Second is, they are stored in the standard report folder. So see, for an example, if I'm on the reports tab, let me give you a quick summary of the reports tab as well. When you are on the reports tab, on the left-hand side, these are all the folders which you have, or which are created. So there are some standard folder there, and you could obviously create some custom folders as well. I'll show you in a while that how would we create a folder. Now, if you have too many folders, you have this box through which you can search for a folder as well. Post that, when you click on a particular folder, so for an example, when I click on opportunity reports, over here I see all the reports which are stored in the opportunity reports folder. But by default, when you come to the reports folder, you see this box. And these are my recent reports. Every report which you've opened or accessed recently would be stored under your recent reports folder. So yeah, it's not a folder actually, just your recent reports which you have accessed, and you can open them from here. Now, every report which is standard in nature is going to be stored only in the standard report folder. See, for an example, this is my opportunity reports. These are all my standard reports. How do I know them? One, you know that you can't delete a standard report, so you would notice the action column would be blank, that you cannot delete them. The second, if I'm on this folder, notice on the action column, I do have an option. I can click on this drop down and say delete. But if it's a standard report folder, no, I can't delete it. Or I can't customize it as well. Now, a lot of time, we have students asking that it's a standard report. Why can't I go ahead and, I'm sorry about that. Why can't I go ahead and customize that? The only reason is it's a standard report, right? You possibly want to customize, add or remove a column from there. What about the other users? They possibly are using the report the way it is. That's why, if you want to use the standard report, want to make a change to it or so, we would recommend you to create a custom report or use this standard report as your template, right? We'll see that how can you use your standard report as a template. Then you add a column, remove a column, do whatever you want to do with the report. Then you're not saving it as a standard report. You would save it as a custom report, like on Microsoft Word. You have a resume template. You pick that template, make a change to it to make your own resume, but then eventually you're not overwriting that template. You're saving it as a Word file. That's the same thing which you do with Salesforce as well. So you're not going to overwrite the standard report. You're going to add a column and then save it as your own personal custom report. So that's one. Also, they cannot be customized as well. As I said, you can add a column, but then you can just save it as a custom report. You're not going to overwrite it. Now, in terms of custom reports, you are the owner, right? I mean, there are multiple ways you can create them. One, you can create them, use a standard report. I'll show you in a while that how can you use and create a custom, or you can simply click on New Report tab right here and create a new custom report. Uh, they are stored in your custom folder. Uh, all those custom reports can only be saved in the custom report folder. Then every user in Salesforce who has access to reports would get a folder called My Personal Custom Reports. So that's like on Windows, you have My Documents. It's something similar to that. Anything which you store here is just accessible to you. Keep in mind that the reports which you create, they don't roll up as per the hierarchy. I mean, it's not that you created a report, your manager would by default get access to it. The way security in reports works, that only the people who have access to the folder in which the report is stored, only these people would get access to the report. No one else can. So by default, your personal custom report, no one else has access to it. So anything which is stored in this folder is not going to be visible to anyone else apart from you. Then there is an unfiled public report folder. Anything which you store in this folder is going to be visible to anyone. It's a public folder. Anyone who has access to run the reports, actually. And yeah, you can delete your custom reports since they are custom in nature. You can obviously delete them. Okay, move ahead. Now, what are report options? I'll show you report options in the interface itself. So when we are at the Salesforce, let's open this report. It's a standard report, closed opportunity report. So this report basically shows me all the closed won opportunities we have in the system. Right at the top, you see this says report options. So when we say report options, what we are talking about is how can you customize the report to show you the relevant data. So see, as of now, I have no data. Why? Because see, the date field says current FQ, which is fiscal quarter. So possibly I don't have any opportunities created in the current fiscal quarter. If I go here and I say, let's say I just go ahead and choose current and previous fiscal year, right? And I say run report. Let's see if it changes the data. Okay, I don't have any opportunities which is closed in the current and previous. So let's say I say any. My opportunity status, I'm not saying just one, show me any opportunity. So yeah, I have one opportunity, right? And this opportunity as of now is in prospecting stage. And this is the detail of this particular opportunity, right? So very less data actually I have. So I can change the time frame. I can show that, okay, I'm going to look at all opportunities or possibly just the opportunities I created. What are the stage of that opportunity? Do you want to group it based on something? So let's say I want it group on the opportunity owner. Now I change certain parameters. Let's see. So yeah, I have an opportunity owner, which is Edify admin, which is me, and there is only one opportunity there, right? So that's your report options that let you go ahead and change how you can go ahead and see the report. So based on what? So this is your summarization. Based what time frame are you looking at? And then these three options would basically change based on what object are you looking at. So since we are looking at an opportunity report, I have an opportunity status. On account, this may not be the case. So they would differ based on what I'm looking at. So this is your report options. Now notice on this report, so these are all the columns. What if I want to remove a column? So the thing is I can't. It's a standard report. I cannot remove a column or add a column. So I can do that by customizing it, which we'll see in a while. So basically with report options, they'll be available at top of every report. You can choose how you want to see it, what time frame are you looking at, what data, and what are the different criteria based on which you need the report. Okay. So we're gonna start with a demo. We're gonna try and create a small report, and so basically the whole objective of this demo is to understand the report tab and using the different report options, the output we want or the report we want to generate would be a report showing all the won opportunities. So we are only looking at the won opportunities, which are grouped by the sales reps. And the high level steps we require is we'll be creating a folder, because as we discussed that access to the report is based on the fact that who has access to the folder. So we'll just create that folder and give access to certain people. Then we'll use the standard report, right? The closed opportunity, the one which we just saw. Using report options, we'll modify the parameters and then we'll save the report to the new folder which we're creating. Before we do that, let's just go ahead and see actually how many opportunities I have in the system. Yeah, I have some closed won opportunities. Okay, they all are in 2014, so that's why I didn't see the data. Okay, good. So going back to reports, let's start with first creating a folder. So I say, okay, not the new report, I'm gonna create a new folder. So folders are created, you click on this drop down and say, I wanna create a new report folder. You click on it and what you wanna call it. So I wanna call it demo report folder, right? And you save it, just the name as of now, which you have given to the folder. So it's your custom folder. Now on this folder, who would have access to? Remember, the security on the report is based on the factor that who has access to the folder. So I click on this pin icon here while I'm highlighting my demo report folder, and I'm gonna choose share, that I want to share this folder with whom. So I'm gonna say roles and subordinates, which are my internal subordinates. I mean, you have this option only here because I have communities. Otherwise, this option would just simply say roles and subordinates. So I'm gonna say CEO. So see, roles and subordinates of CEO, which means eventually everyone in the organization, because everyone in my role hierarchy is just below CEO, right? And I have three different level of access that I can grant. One is the viewer access. Everyone gets to see this. Editor access, they can go ahead and manage the reports within that folder, and manager access, that they can grant more people access to this folder or remove access from this folder. So you can choose whatever. I'm just gonna give a viewer access and say done, so people have access to the folder now. Now I'm gonna use my standard report, go to opportunity reports, and I say I'm looking at close opportunities. So remember, in our scenario, we want the report show all the won opportunities grouped by reps, right? So I want to group it by my sales reps. So I'm gonna go here and I'm gonna say opportunity owner. Okay. And I'm looking at all the data, right? So I'm gonna say current and previous 2 fiscal years. It would not give me the data. Okay, I'm gonna say custom here, and I'm gonna manually define it. So from 2014 to 17, I'm looking at all the opportunities which are there in the system, but only the won opportunities. And I'm gonna say, I'm gonna run the report. Since all the opportunities in this demo account are just created by me, so it's only me. If there is a different user, you would see that grouping done based on that. And you can see the total amount of sum for all these opportunities as well. Now notice, since the moment you change anything on a standard report, even when you change an option from the report option, it's not a standard report anymore, it's a custom report. That's why you don't have a save option here. You just have a save as. So I'm gonna say save as. Give a good name to your report that you can, recognize later. Close won opportunities, right? The unique name automatically comes. Writing a good description is a good practice because that lets you go ahead and find that report quickly next time you have to search for it. And I'm gonna save it in the new folder which I created, see demo report folder, and say save. Okay. So that's your standard report. I go here, and we're gonna move ahead. So that was our first report. In this next part, we're gonna be talking about how can we customize a standard report. Like in our case, what we just did was adding a column to it. I mean, changing some report options. We did not add a column actually. So now we'll see how to add columns and so on. Then we'll see how to create a report and how can you print and export them as well. So let's go ahead. So the report builder in Salesforce, right, which we use to create any custom report, is a drag and drop tool. So with this, you can go ahead and create any kind of report using a drag and drop editor. So you drag a field, drop it on the canvas to go ahead and, add it to your report, right? And yeah, so I'm going to explain all of this on the live instance itself, right? So we have a demo actually in this. I'm going to show you. So the objective is we are going to be running a report which shows opportunities which are grouped by stage. So I'm looking at all the opportunities based on the stages they are in. And then I want to summarize the amount as well. In this demo, the high level steps which we have is we'll be creating a custom report, custom opportunity report. We'll be adding and removing fields as we want. We'll group by stage and summarize the amount field, and we'll add the required filters as well. Okay, let's do this. So we're gonna be, there are two ways I can create that. I can pick this report standard and customize it, or I can do it through report builder. Let's see report builder, right? Now, if you wanna play with the standard report and customize it, when you open a standard report, you have this option customize. When you click on customize, it would actually redirect you to the report builder itself, which is our drag and drop tool. So as of now, I'm actually accessing a standard report and I can make changes. But we're gonna be starting from the scratch. That how do we go to report builder with scratch? So new report. I'm looking at opportunities. You would have all the folders listed here, and every custom object which you have created, you basically would see all of them in your other reports folder. So these are your custom objects. So I'm gonna open opportunities. I'll just say I'm looking at opportunities. These are all the report types which we'll discuss later in our class. So now I'm looking at my report builder. So this is your drag and drop tool. Now on this left hand side, this particular part is called the fields pane. That's where you have all the fields available that you can add on your report. There are multiple ways that you can add a report, a column on your field. I can simply drag and drop it, like see primary partner is here, and then similarly I can remove it as well. Or the second is you can simply double click on a field. The moment you double click on the field, this would be added at the last. Notice as of now I have account name. I double click on created alias. Notice I have a created alias right there. Now it's important that when you're running a report, have only the columns which are required. Don't add too many columns. It gets too crowded, and as a result, the reports may not look good. So if you want to remove a column, you can simply drag and drop it like this, or you can even click on the drop down next to it and say, I want to remove this column. So I'm going to remove some unnecessary columns. If you have multiple columns to remove, you can just press the control key on your keyboard, and while you're holding that key, you can select all these fields which are possibly you don't need, right? Leave your control key, and now you're removing all of them at once. Remember, press the control key, press and hold it, click on all the columns which you don't need, then release the control key and drag and drop any one of them, and it would remove all the fields which were selected. So this is the field pane. This place is called the canvas. That's where you're going to add all these columns to modify or run a report. Remember that whenever you are building a report in Salesforce, this canvas would only show you up to 50 live records. A lot of time people think, people have this confusion that, I'm not finding all of my relevant reports. The only reason for that is, on your report possibly, in this, you're just looking at some limited live records. It's not all of the records, just 50 records. So that's the reason you don't see all the information right here. Uh, this particular part is called the filter area. That's where you add your filters to make sure that you're only looking at the relevant reports. Just going to show you a filter in a while. And then this is your report options. So let's say I'm saying all time, right? So it's basically going to show me all the opportunities now on my system, right? Now remember, the moment you build a report using report builder, by default it's built using tabular format, right? So it's a simple tabular format. But if you remember, we wanted our report to be based on the stages. So I click on this drop down and I say, I want to group it by this field. So it's based on the stages now, right? Once this is done, I have my report based on the stages. Notice the format has automatically changed into a summary format. It's not a tabular format anymore, right? So whenever you click on a drop down and say group by this field, that changes your format of the report to a summary format from tabular. I also wanted my amount field to be summarized. So I can say amount and I say summarize this field. When I say summarize, what I want to see for my amount? I can see sum, I can see the average, I can see the maximum out of all those groupings or the minimum, or I can select all four of them. These are checkboxes. So I'm just going to select sum here, apply, and notice I have all the sum of, but now remember these are all, not all of the records. These are up to 50 records only, right? That's what report builder displays by default. Adding a filter is relatively easy as well. So for an example, let's say, just to show you a dummy filter, I just wanted to see all the opportunities which are from lead source equals, right, let's say web. So when I select web, insert selected, and OK. See, my data would change here. Notice it's all changed because now it's looking at this particular criteria. The way you add this criteria is pretty simple. Two ways. You can click on the drop down and, you can actually drag and drop it here. That's the easier way because now you don't have to click on the drop down and search for it. Or you can just find your field from this left hand side, anything, and drop it here. That adds it to the filter. Two ways. Third way is then I can select my filter from this list. So all these options are there. So my report is ready. I'm just going to run my report. Remember, you're looking at the preview, but now you're looking at the actual data. So whenever on report builder, you're looking at the preview. When you want to see the real report, you have to actually go ahead and run the report to see the real data. Now I'm going to say save as, gonna SEMO2 report, and I'm making sure that I'm saving it in my demo report filter and save it. So that was your second report. If you quickly want to compare between report options and report builder, report option lets you go ahead and change the grouping as we saw, simple filters, or, you want to change the time frame. Wherein on the report builder, we can change the format of the report from tabular to summary, summary to matrix, and so on. We can, we can add formulas to a report. We can reorder the columns as you saw that. And once you are on a summary report, you can also go ahead and add a chart to the report. Notice on this report, once I'm on a tabular report builder, so I have an option to add a chart here as well if I need reorder my column, right? Those all are the options I have on my report builder. I can also go ahead and change the format from summary to something else. I can add formulas, so it gives me full control, wherein report options are limited to changing the time frame and grouping. I'm not gonna save these changes, which I just did. Okay, what if I want to create a matrix report? Matrix report is, as you remember, it's similar to what your summary report is. The only difference is over here the grouping is not only based on the row, it's also based on the column. So we're going to create a matrix report wherein we'll be looking at all the opportunities which are grouped by rep and close date to be displayed in a kind of a table format. So I'm looking at all the opportunities for rep and then based on the month. Okay, so let's go ahead and start from the scratch. New report, opportunities. I am selecting the report type, opportunities, create it, right? Make sure I'm changing the time here, all time, because we have very less data. In real world, I would have it only for a certain time. Now I'm pressing and holding control key, selecting the columns which I think I would not need on my report to make sure it's easy to read my report with only the columns I need. Gonna remove this column as well. Let's reorder account name as my second field. Yeah, when you see the green check, it means you're good to drop it. And amount as my last field. Okay, now I'm gonna base it on the stage. I'm changing the scenario here a bit based on the less data. So I'm not gonna have it based on the rep and the close month. I'm gonna have it based on the stage and the close month. So see, if you remember, we are at the tabular report. If I want to make it a matrix report, remember, there are many ways people would possibly do to create a matrix report. I can simply change the format from here to matrix and then do my grouping. The way I prefer or the way I do to create my matrix report is I first create a summary report. I first identify what I want at my row level grouping. So I want stage as my row level grouping. So I click on this drop down and I say group by this field. So see, as of now, it's a summary report. It's not a matrix report. But I have what I want as a, column level or the row level grouping. Now, after this, what I need to do is I need to have something at the column level. Now, I can even convert this now to matrix. But again, what I do is summary allows you to do 3 level of grouping. So this is my first level of grouping based on stage. I click on the drop down next to close date, say group by this field, and I have another grouping. So first grouping is on the stage, second grouping is based on the close date, right? This is my date field. I would possibly want to see it on a month-on-month basis rather than individual dates. So I click here, drop down. I say group dates by calendar month, so which is easier for me to find out in that case. Now it's grouped on the month-on-month basis now, and notice it's still the summary report. The way you create a matrix report or the way I create a matrix report, I create a 2 level of grouping on a summary report, and now I simply convert the format to a matrix report, right? So notice the first level of grouping on my summary stays as the first level of grouping on my matrix, but the second level of grouping, which was close date, is now the column level grouping, and I have a matrix report. Ideally, the way matrix report look better is you hide details on the report, right? And I'm just gonna run the report. So yeah, I can see that in the month of January, prospecting stage, there was no opportunity created, but in the month of November, there is one. In the need analysis stage, in the month of June, there were 2 opportunities created. In the month of November, there is none. So more data, more realistic picture you see here. So that's your matrix report. On a report, right, there are options which are for scheduling and printing as well. So when you're looking at a report, if I want, I like this report, let's say, I want to make sure that my manager receives this report on a weekly basis on his email, what I can say, I can click on this drop down and say schedule future runs. Now, schedule future run means that this report would automatically, one, refresh at that time which you schedule, right? That's the first thing. And the second is I can have it emailed to someone, right? So first I'll have to save this report. So I'm gonna save it as demo3 in the same folder and say save and continue to schedule, right? Now, That's where when you're scheduling a report, the first question which would come is, who's the running user? Now, it's an important question to understand. Running user is the person based on whose security privileges a report is going to be run. Because this report is going to be sent as an email to the user whomsoever you are scheduling it to be sent. So when he is looking at the email, see if the person is looking at Salesforce, obviously we have control on the fact that what data to display, because I know his security settings and the data Salesforce automatically transforms based on his security settings. But if it's sent on the email, how would we check the security setting? So what we do is we ask you to define a running user. So if I put Edify admin, who's the admin of this Salesforce instance, as a running user, when this report is sent to anyone, it would look based on my privileges, right? So if I have access to all the opportunities in the system, whosoever is looking at it would have access to all the opportunities in the system. I mean, at the level when he's looking at the email. When he'll come back to Salesforce, obviously he would only see what he's authorized to see based on the security. Then I can have the schedule run on a daily, weekly, or a monthly basis, right? So daily, like every weekday, you define your schedule. That let's say it starts 15th and it goes through till next year, right? 17th, and I say I want this report to be run at 10 p.m. So what would happen every day, 10 p.m., Salesforce would run this report so that it has all the updated data and send it as an email to whomsoever I'm scheduling based on the privileges of this user. And that's where you select whom you want to send it to. Now remember, you can only schedule it to be sent to the people who have access to the folder in which you have stored the report. So the report which I created, I stored it in a report wherein everyone below CEO and, we selected roles and subordinates of CEO. So everyone has access to the folder. So eventually everyone would get access to the report as well. So that's how you schedule it. And about printing, there are two views available here called printable view and export detail. Now, a printable view would give you a look and feel same as what you see on the report, right? Like you see it on the Salesforce. But when you click on export details, export detail, consider it as a raw data. I mean, there's not much you're going to see. It's just the raw data. So in a printable view, your grouping and formatting is retained. So you see the way you see it on Salesforce. In an export detail, the grouping and formatting is not retained. You just see the raw data. So that's the whole idea behind printing and exporting of reports. Okay. So we discussed this already. Yeah, that's how the report looks on the email. So when you schedule a future run, it's based on the user who's running the report, who's set as a running user. Talking about the dashboards, dashboard is simply a visual representation of the data that you can project to anyone in a more graphical way. So which is more action. I mean, more people have more appeal to the graphical data as compared to when I send someone an Excel sheet. There are two different type of dashboards which you're looking at this screen. On the left-hand side is the dashboard which is created in the Lightning environment, Lightning experience as we call it. On the right-hand side is the dashboard which is created on the classic environment. And as we discussed, we'll be discussing about Lightning environment in our next class. So moving ahead, what is a dashboard? In classic environment, a dashboard can have up to 20 components. So these all are the components. This is the pie component. Sorry, this is not the pie. This is the pie component. This is a bar chart component, right? So these are all the components which I have. In order to create a dashboard, you need to have a custom report created because dashboards are created on the custom reports. You could have dashboard components built on the Visualforce pages as well. You can have, like in reports, you have a running user. Dashboard has a running user as well. So the whole idea behind a running user is based on whose security settings Salesforce would reflect the data. And then dashboard can be refreshed manually, and it can be scheduled to be refreshed automatically and sent as an email as well. Now, one good difference between a report and a dashboard, apart from being graphic in nature, is that when you're looking at a report, it displays you a single source of data. But when you're looking at a dashboard, let's say, has 20 components. Now, all these 20 components can be based on the same report, or they can be based on different reports as well. So, let's say if they are based on different reports, so when you're looking at one dashboard, which has some 20 components, you actually are looking at 20 different data sources. And when you click on the refresh button, all of them are refreshed automatically. Yep. So it's a drag and drop tool. I'm gonna show you in the system itself, right? Then how the dashboard is built. So this is the last demo which we have of building a dashboard. Okay, so what we do is we go to the reports tab first, right? For a dashboard as well, you require a dashboard folder. So we're gonna use the custom dashboard folder. Remember, dashboards are not created going to the dashboard tab. Dashboards are created going to the reports tab and clicking on new dashboard. When you go to the dashboard tab, you're looking at the existing dashboards in the system. So I click on new dashboard here, right? That launches my dashboard builder. Notice there are 3 columns to my dashboard. There can be maximum 3 columns only. You can have a column removed, but you cannot have more than 3 columns. You can adjust the column width by going narrow, medium, or wide, whatsoever you'd prefer. These are all the components which you can add. So, you have your horizontal chart, vertical bar chart, your line chart, funnel, this is your donut, pie, this is your scatter, this is gauge, this is metric, this is table, and this is your visual force. These are the type of components you can have. So for an example, you simply drag and drop your chart. So this is a pie chart. Add a, so I'm going to add a title here, but before that, this pie chart is based on what? So I go to my data sources, go to reports, my demo reports, which I created. And let's say I'm going to add our demo 2 report here. So Salesforce is automatically going to build a report based on the data source. So first you drop the component and then the data source on top of it. Remember that data source can only be a custom report and stored in a folder to which you have access to. So this is my pie chart. I can have a title added here, opportunities by stages, right? So, or you can have it the other way as well, right? I can first drop my data source and then I can drop my component. Either way, so that's up to you how you want to do it. Data source followed by a component or component followed by a data source. Now when you do this, so for an example, this pie chart, I can click on this wrench icon to make changes to the data. So like I can say value ascending, right? And I want to show percentage. Let's say, yes, I do. What is the component data? So you can change all these values and anything the way you want, right? So these are the dashboards. Now, we're going to be discussing a lot more about dashboards. As I said, this is more like an introductory class to the reports and dashboards, which we have in functioning. We'll have a lot of exercises to follow, and we'll have a few small scenarios actually created, which I'll share with you post this class. Based on that, you need to create those reports and dashboard that we need to discuss in our next class. But the way the classes would work, this is your introductory part. In the next class, we're going to be discussing about in detail, right, about these features and creating these reports and dashboard in detail. This is more like a introduction to the feature as of now. It's not the class wherein we teach you exactly each and every feature of the report. It's more like an introductory to these classes. And so second class would be wherein we'll go step by step. We'll do exercises together, make sure that we all know it. And in the third class is wherein we'll give you scenarios and we do those scenarios right in the class, right? That's how we've designed every class till now, right? One, we show you. Second, we do it together. And the third class, we ask you to do it yourself. So that'll be the agenda, right? Just gonna save this dashboard as of now as a demo dashboard. Okay, I'm gonna save it. Now, yes, I'm gonna take the questions now, right? So we can take all the questions which you have, and post that, we'll discuss about the next class, that what time we have the next class and what all we're gonna be doing exactly on that class, right? Yes, I'm gonna take the questions now, so you can open your question and answer on the chat. I'm gonna answer all the questions. Yes, Sam. So, yeah, guys, Sam has a question. He's saying that, you know, when we're running the reports in Salesforce about the securities, can my manager see the reports which I've created, even though, though he is above you in the role hierarchy? So in Salesforce, no, he can't see the report just because he's above you in the role hierarchy. He can only see the reports which are stored in the folder which he has access to. So if he can't, if he has no access to the folder in which the report is stored, he's not gonna see the report. Yeah, right. Okay, Jyoti has a question and she's asking, okay, yeah, complete your question, I'll wait. Yeah. Filters, yes. The filter which I've shown you, so Jyoti is asking everyone that how many filters we can add on a report. So you can add up to 10 filters on a single report. Yes, 10 filters on the report. Mhm. Okay, so yeah, Sam has another question. He's asking, what would be or what is the difference between a summary and a matrix, apart from being it a row level and a column level grouping? So yeah, that's the major difference between a summary and a matrix report. That summary report is a report which is based on a row level grouping, wherein a matrix report is a grouping on the row as well as on the column. So I guess that is the major difference between these two reports. Yeah. Okay, it's a good question. What are the report types? As we discussed earlier, guys, that report types is something which we'll take care or discuss in the next classes. But just to give you a scenario on the report types, by default in Salesforce, every report type is created with an end parameter. So like so with parameter, for an example, there are opportunities with product or order with products. What if I want to see what are all the opportunities which are created in system without the products? So whenever you are creating or you want to define a parameter or a criteria wherein you can have reports based on with or without, then we use report types to create them. And also when you have when you have custom objects, to relate those custom objects and have fields on them, we use custom report types as well, right? Okay, so I guess, yeah, any other question? So I guess we don't have any more questions now. So we'll end the session here. You're going to get the recording of the session sent to you. And if you have any further questions, you can send those follow-up questions on the portal which we've discussed with you. And yeah, thank you so much for your time today, and we'll see you in the next class. Thank you.